You can either manually manage the sponsorship status of your children and which children are available to be sponsored on your site, or you can allow GiveCloud to do this automatically. Each child has a sponsor status that can be seen in the top right of their profile here. You can either set this to yes, this child is sponsored, or no, they are not sponsored. This would be manually managing their sponsorship status. If you're using these options of yes or no, that means that you will need to manually update the sponsor status of your children as you see fit. Alternatively, and this is the recommended behavior, you can allow GiveCloud to automatically manage whether this child is sponsored or not by setting the sponsored status to auto. This means that GiveCloud will look to see if a child has reached the number of sponsors that are required for them to be considered sponsored and will automatically mark them as sponsored. In your sponsorship settings, you can define the number of sponsors a child needs to be considered sponsored. When a child reaches this number of sponsors, then GiveCloud will automatically mark them as sponsored. If they are sponsored and you have the option enabled to hide sponsored records from your website, then that child will automatically not be displayed on your site. GiveCloud uses a mixture of the sponsored setting and this on-web setting here to determine whether a child will show up on your website or not. If a child is set to not sponsored, so either auto no, because they don't have the number of sponsors to be considered sponsored, or if they're explicitly set to not sponsored, and on-web is enabled, then this child will show up on your website for potential sponsors to see. If on-web is disabled and the child is not sponsored, then they will not show up on your website. Now, if the child is sponsored, either by yes, by selecting yes, they're sponsored, or by setting it to auto and GiveCloud calculates whether they're sponsored or not, and on-web is enabled, then GiveCloud will look to the setting for hide sponsored records on web to see if they should still show up on your website or not.